Welcome back to Absolutely Marvel and DC, where we talk about your favorite superhero TV shows, movies, and video games. Yes, that's right. We sit here in a podcast format talking about everything in the world of superheroes that isn't directly related to comic books. And we had a whole other channel where we talked about video games, and the only videos that did well over there was the discussions about superheroes. So now they come over here. It's all under the Absolutely Marvel and DC brand. Right, Dylan?
Yeah. We're talking about it all now. You're gonna get our talks about Avengers and the Guardians of the Galaxy game already happened, but when there's a new one, Midnight Suns, we'll talk about that more.
Oh yeah, gonna be a lot of Midnight Suns
as that comes out. Definitely.
So all right, so today we wanted to talk about the rumors of the company that is making DC Legends Online or DC Online, DC Universe Online. That's that one. DC likes to throw the same naming. DC Legends, DC Universe, DC.
It's never a great name for an MMO.
DC Universe Online, which has now been around for about 11 years, I think was the official date on it. They are apparently rumored to be working on a Marvel MMO, which I find baffling. Not that it's the same company. That's whatever.
Do you think I don't know. When I first read this, I was like, "But we have Avengers." But it's not an MMO. DCUO, but it's like close enough in my headspace. But it's for sure not like a traditional MMO.
We also have Future Revolution, which is more of a traditional MMO where you go out and
we had Marvel Heroes, which is dead now, right?
Yeah, Marvel Heroes is shut down, I believe. But the reason this baffles my mind is MMOs just don't exist in the traditional MMO sense. The games like DC Universe Online don't exist anymore. Those games don't succeed. They can't get new players. It's pretty much down to the big dogs, Final Fantasy XIV and World of Warcraft. And then you have the ones that survived the culling, So we got Guild Wars 2, DC Universe Online. I had a few. ESO. ESO is actually huge at this point, but took them 5 years to get to that point. MMOs just... What is it? SWTOR? Well, it survived the culling. It did. It's still around.
It's still getting up. It just got an expansion a month or two ago that I need
But we haven't had a brand new MMO since New World. And New World was the first one in almost 6-7 years, and New World isn't doing so hot after its initial month launch.
Which I could have seen that coming from a mile away. But
Oh yeah, no, even in the beta, I was like this I hope no one was excited for this. But I mean, the fact that they're going to do, in theory, just a DC Universe Online with Marvel. First off, I love DC Universe Online. The only reason I don't play that one is the gameplay systems are just so old and the graphics are so old.
Yeah, it's just dated for sure.
And that's the problem I have with DC Universe Online. I love the game and the fact that they dive into so many storylines. It's just very dated and it hasn't aged well. Final Fantasy XIV's been around for 10 years and WoW's been around for 15 years, and they've figured out ways to keep updating. And apparently DC Universe Online is going to update finally. So maybe I'll go back and actually start working on my characters again. But, I mean, what do you think? I've been talking a ton about MMOs. What do you think, Dylan?
I don't know what they're going to do with it, because the problem with DCUO to me always was that, and it's a hard problem to solve when you're playing a superhero game based on a shared universe with pre-existing characters, is how do you solve the question of individuality? If you want to play as Spider-Man, there's a million other people who want to play as Spider-Man, and in DCUO they solve that by you play as your own superhero, you make your own guy with his own abilities and everything. And I don't know. Whenever I played that game, I always felt like it was just I just wanted to play as Batman or whatever. I didn't.
Well, they came out with a mode to allow you to do that. But I get what you're saying. That there was a mode in that one where it's a versus mode where you can pick their favorite heroes and play against other heroes.
Sure, but the core gameplay is you make your own dude, which is that's classic MMO stuff. But in a world, it was a world that just didn't host that. The Old Republic solved that problem in an interesting way, where they just said, okay, none of the characters are alive yet. and Jedi are everywhere, so you can be whoever you want, and it makes more sense. Obviously that's a story-based game, and it doesn't make any sense that oh, you're the guy who's gonna save the world, but also this dude has the same exact story you have, but we're not gonna talk about that.
The Old Republic was weird because ESO has the same problem too, where it's like these races don't intermingle. Yeah, but we're before all that. So we're actually in a time period where racism didn't exist.
Wow.
That's how ESO kind of handled the situation.
But like, you know, because there's games like Avengers, which initially, like, for lore reasons, they were like, no, you can't play as the same characters. But then everyone was like, that's stupid. Who cares? So they fixed that. And same with like Marvel Heroes, which is like, you know, you get to, there's a lot of characters that you got to play as in that. And I remember having fun with that. But I just don't like that style of game, like the dungeon crawly type game. So it's, I don't know, but like the most interested I am with this project is how they're going to answer that question of like, because coming from the DCUO people, are they going to take the same approach and just put a Marvel skin over it and modernize it? Or is it going to be something completely different? I don't know.
It's weird. I find it weird that we just had Future Revolution, which is just allowing us all to be the same superhero. And that seems like, I'm wondering if they're going to go a route like that. They're going to basically do it like Future Revolution, and we just do the whole, hey, do we both want to be Spider-Man? Doesn't matter. Like,
Which
the way that they're doing it is the multiverse answer. Like, oh, if you're Spider-Man, I'm Spider-Man, we have different Earths. It's whatever.
And that's the same thing that the Avengers did, is like after the Tachyon anomaly rift, they were like, oh, due to ongoing concerns with Tachyon rifts, now there's 4 Iron Mans. It's like, okay.
My biggest issue with the Avengers excuse for that was like, why even give me a story?
Exactly.
Just
who cares?
Sometimes
nobody needed that answer.
Yeah, sometimes in video games when they finagle their own lore and they try to come up with a reason, I'm always like,
that's
why? Why did you even do that?
Over-explaining is such a problem in comic books. Like, for those that don't know, Miss Marvel in the comics, you know, she can shapeshift and stretch and stuff. She's not just doing that. She's not modifying her cells. They decided to over-explain it to say that every time she's doing it, she's opening a portal to another dimension where she's grabbing mass from and adding it to herself and then returning it. Yeah. Why? That's so
that you know how it functions. I mean,
she's
that's
an
the
Inhuman.
whole point.
That's all we need to
know. You need an explanation, Dylan. Come on.
Obviously. Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do with this MMO. Like, to the point, like, there's no details we're leaving out. All we know is that Marvel MMORPG is coming from Dimensional.
Here's my other question. Has Marvel just decided to make a Marvel-themed game in every genre? Okay, live service, beat 'em up, looter shooter, done. Narrative storyline, we got Spider-Man and Wolverine, done. Guardians 2. That one's a narrative-driven collectathon as well. We got that one also. You guys want a mobile game? You got Strike Force and Future Revolution.
Here's 7.
Cool, there we go. Here's 7. You guys want a puzzle game? Marvel Puzzle Quest. Here you go. We slapped the name on it. Oh. You guys like DC Universe Online? Is that what I hear? We need. Hey, Marvel. We need a Marvel MMO now. Like.
Apparently. I think it's just, you know, I don't know when this happened, but I mean, when Marvel Games formed is probably when it happened, but it's just, there's a Marvel game everywhere, and I'm sure like people are getting tired of it. But you know, as a Marvel fan, I'm not like elated by the idea of a Marvel MMO because I just, you know, MMO can mean whatever you want it to mean these days.
Yeah, that's an issue these days.
Like, I would love if they just took Final Fantasy XIV and gave it a Marvel skin. That's what I want, but I know that's not going to happen.
I mean, you know, I'm a Final Fantasy XIV fanboy. You know that's what I want.
Yeah. I think, because that's like, you know, the traditional MMO, like when I got back into the reason I got back into 14 earlier this year was because I was craving traditional, like target, you know, point and click, like
tab targeting,
yeah, tab targeting, classic MMO combat. And somebody, a buddy of mine who was looking into New World was like, oh, New World's like a classic MMO. And I looked in and I was like, well, this looks bad. And also it's not classics. Like we just, like you were saying at the top of this video, we don't get traditional MMOs anymore.
We don't. New World was a crack at that. And there was a huge fan base for it for about a month. And then
Right.
they just started dropping the ball because people wanted it to have different changes or different fixes, and it just kind of went out the window. And I think it's still going strong to an extent, but it's definitely not the same size. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I have friends who are like, yeah, after such and such exploit, I'm done. Like, that was the end of that. So,
And it's just, I feel like people, like devs are like, oh, this stuff isn't flashy enough, like it's not modern enough, people aren't going to play it. But then you go and you look at like the player bases of 14 and WoW back in its heyday. And it's like, those are games that have lasted some like over a decade.
yeah.
And
if you can get an
people still play
MMO,
them.
they're bank. They're just
Right.
bank, and everyone knows that.
And I think it's, you know, don't be afraid of, people still play RuneScape. Like, don't be afraid to use older style, you know, combat systems or gameplay systems and modernize them a little bit. Like, you don't need to like, I think the original Avengers game that was canceled before we got the one that, the FPS one, like, that was an interesting project. But, like,
Yeah.
that is a great example of, like, why are you turning the Avengers into a FPS? Because it's, like, a fad right now? You don't need to do that. Just make an Avengers game.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I feel like we're hitting an era where Marvel games want you to at no point not have a Marvel game to be playing. I think they're trying to get to a point where you're like, man, I'm in the mood for an MMO. Here's the Marvel MMO. Man, I really want to play an app game. Here's the Marvel app game. I really want to play a narrative game. Here's the I think they want to make I think what Disney's trying to do is, if you want to live off Marvel, movies, shows, video games, and merchandise, they are going to make that feasible.
Yeah, I know. If you want to watch a video about that, Comic Drake, and I forget the name of the other creator, he collabed with someone and they made a video like, what would it be like if you lived every day off of Marvel merchandise only? And it's surprisingly feasible. And this is also an issue in not an issue, but like, it's a thing that's prevalent in tabletop games too. Is like, most popular tabletop games, there is a Marvel skin for it. Like, there's Marvel Munchkin. Marvel Legendaries. Yep. Legendary started as Marvel, but like there was, you know, Marvel Legendary.
I mean, the D&D
there's a
game
Marvel
that
version
we
of
made.
Bang. There's
the D&D game that we did is based off of the Marvel system that was created.
Yeah.
Like,
there's Marvel Smash Up. I'm looking at a box that's Marvel Seen It. That's like 10 years old, but there's a lot of Marvel like everywhere.
Can we play that on this channel? You and I just play Marvel Seen It.
Yeah, I did that on my channel when I got it. The video will get copyright claimed.
Anyway, I think we're at the point of this video, and I hope you guys enjoy us bringing over some of our gaming talks. Dylan and I just wanted to put it in a place that maybe the Marvel fans will enjoy more, and this will be easier for you to find. We'll be talking about the Marvel Avengers raid soon, Spider-Man gameplay, and keep up to date with any stuff coming out in the gaming world. But overall, thank you for joining us today. Join the Absolute Armada today by hitting like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell down below. I'm Benny. That's Dylan. We'll see you next time right here.